Good morning, President Ondimba. It's a pleasure to be with you and pleasure to meet you here in Gabon, in Libreville. How do you see the relationship between India and Gabon going forward? Do you have a vision for India and Gabon's relationship?
We are always been very fascinated by India. As far as I can remember, in Gabon, Indian movies were always very popular, even though when I was, a child. And knowing more about the country, history, geography, I was always very impressed by your country. And then when I visited India, of course, it moved me and then made me see that there were rooms, for cooperation between, partnership between our two countries. India is an example for all of us because it's a country where there is you feel not only an ambition for this country to be developed, and though there are many problems, it's not a country with a lot of oil money, but still the intelligence of the people, the vision of the leaders is always it's a big example for us. And so that's why I'm very, very keen to this partnership that we should have with India. And we had, when I was last in India during the summit between India and Africa, I had a nice, very interesting conversation with Prime Minister Modi.
That's exactly what I wanted to go back to. That was the India-Africa Forum Summit in October of 2015. You did meet with Prime Minister Narendra Modi when you were in India. How do you see and did you share any thoughts with Prime Minister Modi on how to take forward the partnership between India and Gabon?
Well, of course, I followed, Prime Minister Modi's, campaign and his vision for India. And then talking to him, there was a very intelligent man, smart and pragmatic. It's like a get to the point. And what we shared together was like the vision to develop, especially and strengthen economic ties. We are very much interested, in having Indian companies coming into Africa, investing, and also just doing business, with us in a win-win situation. And I think also what was important is I had the feeling that, I was being heard and understood. Sometimes, when you talk to great countries, they're more keen on their own vision than listening to what you want to do. So at least, Prime Minister Modi listened to me. He wanted to know what was my vision and also what I really wanted and what I thought that he could do, and his government could do. So that was very important for me.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has a vision for Make in India and Produce in India. Do you think you see any possibility of a partnership between India and Gabon to bring Make in India to Gabon and have a partnership on that?
The example of what's happening in India is important for us. We have been, since independence, a country, producing and exporting and processed, raw goods. And this has put us in the category of, developing countries, fine. But we went through, and we're still in the middle of an economic crisis due to the oil, price falling down. And if it hadn't been for the policy that we developed 7, 8 years ago of, diversifying, our economy, we would be in deep trouble. What I mean is that though you have natural resources, if those resources are not manufactured, if you do not go through processing, then you will not achieve the type of development that you want. We want to become an emerging economy. And this is not going to happen if we do not go, through processing. So this partnership with India is interesting because India has been going through that already. And India has potential, businessmen that could help us not only go through this phase, of processing, but also help us investing in infrastructure, agriculture, whatever, many other fields that are important for the development of our country.
Mr. President, the fact is that India is a powerhouse as far as economic growth is concerned. While the world seems to be slowing down, India seems to be moving ahead, not only with economic reforms, but the growth projections. Are there any specific areas, because you said oil is not the only area you would want your country to be dependent on. What are the specific areas that you would want Indian businesses to come in and invest in Gabon?
Our first natural resources is the rainforest.
Timber.
Timber. The country is covered 88% by the rainforest. And this is a renewable, resource. And thank God, we have been very successful in protecting. And we have been in a situation as to also, not only to conserve, protect, but also to develop. Our deforestation rate is not even 1%. But still, it's important for us, this sector is an important one when we think that there is the possibility of a strong partnership. When I visited India, I was amazed, the craftsmanship, with the wood. We have the wood. We don't have, this craftsmanship expertise. So this is an area where without timber, there could be a lot to be doing, There are also other areas of importance for us. Agriculture, we have the land. Our country roughly is by the size of UK with only 1.8 million inhabitants. So we have a lot of arable land to be developed, and God has given us, we have water, we have the sun and good soil. So we want to also move into agriculture because not only we want independence when it comes to feeding our people, but also we want to be able to export. And there also, I think, a possibility of partnership. And industrialization becomes with energy helping us, to go into developing major projects, especially in the fields of, mining, which is important. And we have already started with some Indian companies going to mining. And so I would say the sky is the limit.
Mr. President, let me go into the specifics. And the specifics are that there were 2 lines of credit that were extended to Gabon from India that are still unimplemented. Now, these lines of credit that exist, do you think both governments should sit down and sort out the problem so that this going to fruition could open up the avenues for further investments to come in?
Definitely. Both governments have to sit down. As I told you, we have been going through some problems because oil prices, so it has led us to redefine our priorities. And we want to use those line of credits where it could be, helping us better. And I mean like that is for me is like if I'm going to, seek, and indebt my country, it has to be for sector that will help me boost the economy. Half of the population is very young. all these young men and women are going to come into the market seeking
For
jobs.
jobs.
Yeah. So that's why, transformation, processing of our economy is important. As I look into the partnership that I can have with India, it can also help me, in all different areas.
Your Excellency, the Gabonese Foreign Minister Pacome Bobea was in India in May earlier this year and met with our Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj, Madam. What was the sense and what was the message that he conveyed, and what was the reply and what was the initiative that you heard from India?
Well, the message was that Gabon is open for business. And I'm leading a very much, business-oriented government. And that it was important to review with the government in India what could be the tools, that would help, promoting more partnership. By that, we mean any agreement to reinforce and to protect, agreement on protection of investment, agreement of double taxation, convey the message that any investor can freely repatriate its revenues. So all these things very important to convey to a partner that you want to do business with. Say that your investment is secure. If you come to Gabon, your investment is secure.
Are there any specific Indian companies that Gabon has been in touch with? Any Indian industries that you have been in touch with who you would want to increase investments in Gabon?
We have, I've met various, some Indian companies, and one is very already active in agro industry, developing, a chicken farm, very important. One is also being, operational when it comes to mining. We have an important mining project with manganese in the southeastern part of the country. We have important international companies now that have invested in Gabon for years. And as for India, I just would like you to consider asking, Indians that are already working in Gabon.
You're an equatorial country and sun is something that you have abundance of. Are you looking at partnerships in the area of solar energy with India? Because that is something that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has a huge vision on as far as India is concerned.
Energy is very important for us. Why? First, improve living conditions of the population. Energy, electricity helps improve the condition of the people, but also for us it's the industrialization of the country. Because without any source of energy, there are some important projects that could never, be started. So we have various possibilities in Gabon. We can have energy coming from gas, but mostly we use hydro, but we are opening up, also to solar energy.
Africa is a very vibrant continent. India is a vibrant country. What in India have you seen and what is it that you have appreciated? We understand that you've traveled a bit in India and you've seen Rajasthan. What did you like in India and what is on your list to do when you come next to India?
Yours is a big country. It's a large country. So I understand that, it will take more than one trip. Large cities, they're all the same. So I like to go in the countryside and visit. And I was amazed by my visit in Rajasthan. So I went to Jaipur and then went to Udaipur and Jodhpur. And I'm looking forward, visiting other areas, Punjab, but also my next visit, I also want to go more south. The country is so rich, in culture. And this is a country that has been able to keep, roots, in strong and deep culture, but also modernize. Sometimes, in Africa, we are so looking forward, to developing our country, to modernize our countries, and sometimes we kind of forget, where we come from. We cut ourselves off from our roots. And that's something that, I found very, very strong in India. This is and I would say a tree, deep rooted, in the ground, but, branches going up.
How do you see the political situation in India? Would you see India as a country with a leader who's so popular as Narendra Modi, the previous elections that you saw? And how do you see doing business with a leader who has great relationships with world leaders?
My meeting with the Prime Minister Modi was very, very interesting for me. He laid down a vision, and I've been trying to follow what he's been trying to do, and especially this orientation that he has towards, promoting more business. This is also something, where I am influenced.
You have the Gabon Special Economic Zone. How do you look at that? India went into the Special Economic Zone model of development. Hasn't been very successful there. What are your thoughts on the economic zone development in Gabon and the vision for its success in the future?
It felt quite awkward, bizarre, that we would travel around the world and be shown what was done with our own timber, and nothing like that here. So I just thought that, well, it's nice to be giving jobs, to foreigners, in other countries. Why couldn't we do it here? This special economic zone was to promote, good wood industry. We took, severe, measures like to ban, log export. And it was very difficult at the beginning because that was a decision difficult to implement. That was not understood. But ever since, now we've been having great success, having almost over 30 companies that started, in the processing of wood right there in Cork.
President Ondimba, the $300 million port that you've just unveiled, are there any other projects of that scale, of that nature in the infrastructure sector that you're looking at in terms of airports, in terms of other areas that you would want to do partnership with?
In terms of ports, we have, of course, more ambition as we also developing our mineral port, because we have important mining project, manganese, and we have the ambition of, we're already in the top 3 exporters in the world. We have the ambition of becoming the first one. We have other possibility when it comes to iron ore, and so that's why we need to develop and push, the mineral port. And there are other possibility when it comes to mining sector. We are going also to start the construction of a new airport, international airport, and that would start 2 months from now, because we also have the ambition of becoming a hub. We think that not only in terms of geography, we're right in the heart of the continent, right on the equator. The distance, the further from Gabon is 5 hours. 5 hours you reach any destination, in Africa from Gabon. So it's a natural, natural hub for us. So that's why we're also going to build this airport that would help us connecting with the rest, of the continent, and also outside the continent. Road construction will still go on, but also railroad. Railroad very important, especially when we're talking about, mining opportunities.
President, when you talk about inviting investments from India to Gabon, how do you put your country as compared to other countries in Africa in terms of safety, in terms of security and political stability? What would be your message to companies that are looking at Gabon as a destination?
We are a country right on the equator with the sun, sea, rainforest, and also a very stable country, political stability is very important, and we have it, and it's a secure country. We have important international companies now that have invested in Gabon for years. And as for India, I just would like you to consider asking, Indians that are already working in Gabon.
You spoke a lot about timber trade. Certified timber trade so that you also preserve your natural resources. What are your efforts in that direction?
I attended those conference of the parties, the climate. And the first one that I attended to was Copenhagen. And I came out of that conference, pretty shocked, and realizing that something needed to be done. But we were in a situation where we were told that we had to conserve and preserve. But at the meantime, we have to develop our country. So when I came back, I called a meeting, the administration, business, community, government, and I told everyone, well, you know what? We have to be strong and leader, when it comes to conservation, but we have to develop our country. So I want you to think, how we can achieve that. What I do not want is for any of you to tell me that it's not possible. That's not an answer that I would accept. So we came up with what we call the climate plan and sustainable development, and we implemented that plan, basically proving that it was possible to preserve and at the same time develop. And because, as I told you, we cut trees, in a smart way, and deforestation, I told you, is not even 1%. We also plant, and we created also an agency to have satellite images, to monitor the country and see where areas are more damaged than others, where we should, develop agriculture, mineral. So we put that in a land use, plan to exactly decide what we were going to do. And so far, so good. It is working. We are protecting, the environment. And what is also very important, Gabonese population understand what we're trying to do. Because sometimes, you try to implement a policy and your people do not follow you. So why is the president talking about, protecting trees?
You have to convince people to.
Yes. So why is he trying to protect trees? Why is he trying to protect, animals, So my father just started, this policy by creating, 11 national parks representing 13%, of the country, of the land. And we just follow on that.
And that's been a successful policy.
It's been very successful. Now the people really understand what we're trying to do, and people participate. Yeah.
It's been lovely to talk to you and get your vision of India-Gabon partnership. We do hope the two countries and their friendship goes forward, and we welcome you to India when you come next spring.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure meeting.
Thank you. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Next week on Gabon Calling, we discover the ocean of timber tales.